billion in turnover, 7% of GDP, employs best part of 3 million people. Even if you get 10% staff turnover, that's still a lot of job opportunities out there. So don't be too disheartened and try and look at what the media, what's behind the media headlines. What I can say at the moment is, yeah, it's still tough out there. Our officers, my team, tell me that yes, it's tough out there, but since the depths of the recession, put it into perspective, we went into the recession with 80 staff, finished with 40 staff, we're now back up to 60, and that reflects the demand line at the moment. So things are improving, but we're still some way from 2007 levels. Okay. Bit of a random slide, but I was speaking to someone the other day, and he was massively enthused by the 2022 World Cup that's going to be in Qatar. £137 billion worth of investment could be going on. I'm sure you guys will be involved, if not already. Yeah. So, again, is anyone here consider going global? Are you going to go global? Go show hands, anybody? No? Europe? We'll go all guy. Anybody consider working in Europe or just the UK? Yeah. And can we go outside Yorkshire? Okay. So, what I said, don't rule it out, but it's kind of quite intrigued. If you want to be better be employed abroad, perhaps, and not employed in the UK. Okay. Right. Recruitment process. All sorts of factors at play. HR departments. In your search for jobs, especially with graduate schemes, you'll come up against HR. Recruiters tend not to like HR because they go really slow and it's a really drawn out process. But for many of the graduates, that's going to be your way in. You've got to comply and do the right things at the right time. Application forms, you'll come across these quite a lot. One of the tips is obviously fill it in black ink. We get photocopied a lot from time to time. More often than not, this is usually the first part of the sifting process, and it's to sift out the unsuitable. Messy application form, answer it, not as they would like, it'll go in the bin. If you've got 100 application forms, the first thing you want to do is get rid of 80 of them. And if you didn't, that's it. You might not even read past page 1. That happens. Okay, internet portals becoming more and more common. In effect, taking your application form and putting it online. One of the difficulties with these, for you guys filling them in, is that you might not know what's on screen 13 or screen 17. So trying to do a joined up application compared to an application form is tough. Can I give you much help on there? Not really. You have to be honest, fill in the best you can. Internet job boards. I'm sorry, show hands who's familiar with these, who's using them, looking at them. One person, 2 people, 3, not many, okay. A little bit about internet job boards and how they work. We talk about names like JobSite, Monster, Reed, Simply Hired. There's lots of industry-specific job boards, but recruiters and employers will use other portals to take one job, spread it everywhere on all job sites, and so when you're applying, when you're the recruiter, you're looking at a screen, there's 100 people in front of you, and what you tend to get is preview covering letter and preview CV, and click of a mouse, you'll be binned, a maybe, or a contender is a typical process. And I think a covering letter on these is just as important as traditionally putting one in the post. If you use the auto response or the automatic choice of candidate XYZ would like to apply for this role, compared to seeing the advert, really interested, a little bit of spiel in there, stands out. And what you're trying to do at this stage, you're only trying to get yourself to an interview. just the sheer volume, you know, we're getting 150 applicants for every job, and most of them read the advert, so you're in this frame of mind, being they're okay. So you've got to be aware of all these factors coming into account. Recruitment consultancies, there are specialists for graduates, and we're not one of them. We do help grads, of course we do, but we're not specialists. You know, generalist construction recruiter. But there's absolutely no harm at all in working with 2 or 3 that have got a decent reputation, specialists in the field. Look out for an REC logo, so you've at least got some sense that they might not be working out of the living room. Make sure you're dealing with someone decent and try and build a rapport with them. Job fairs and networking. Well, you've made an effort tonight, and from the networking tonight, if it's your first time, if you get a little bit of experience, again, lots of these events happen. You can be rocking up at a jobs fair, make sure you've got a decent CV, you know, to hand. If you can hand it over, make a good impression, that's going to help. Careers advisors and academic links. I'd like to think if you're studying here or elsewhere, you've got access to decent facilities. I've got lots of nodding over there. So I got nothing now at the night, so it's all changed. There's still print media ads. You might have to actually print a CV off, print a covering letter off, and put it in the post. Rare, but you'll know the magazines. If you went back 10 years ago, you could get construction news. You'd have 10 pages of jobs. Now you're looking to have 1, maybe 2. Your new civil engineering magazine, building magazine. They are out there, but it's diminishing. And then passive and social media is coming more and more into the fore. I'm looking at some work Unilever are doing the other day, I think I remember why. And they've got dozens and dozens of talent, human capital type people that are putting messages out there to try and attract talent by different mediums. On LinkedIn, if you've got the right profile, you will get jobs advertised that in theory suits your interests and profile. So you've got to be fully aware that some companies will try and recruit through these routes. There's a choice. If you're not familiar with them, you're going to exclude yourself from some of the opportunities. Okay, I'm not even touching on assessment days and psychometric testing, but there's plenty out there to get through. Right, sorry about that. Okay. As I see, your 2 basic tools in the past have become 3 basic tools. Your CV, anyone know what that stands for? Course of your life. Okay. Covering letters still, you know, still definitely needed, and e-profile, that's my lingo for anything that's out there on the internet that's going to enhance you. Okay, I'm not going to tell you how to write a CV, but I will be giving you some tips. Most people use something similar like a heading, personal profile, and everybody, we're all fed up of work as well as an individual and as part of the team. Try something new, see it all the time. There's lots of resources out there, self-help books. When I put decide on your action words, that's in your personal profile. Don't make yourself out to be something that you aren't. You know, dynamic, motivated team player, but think of a selection of words that genuinely does sum you up. You know, if you are quiet and reserved, you could put yourself down as methodical, thinker, reflective, but at least try and describe yourself as reasonable as you can. Some kind of action words, I call them. And anything you can do to make yourself stand out. I know I'm trying to give you 1 or 2 tips to how you can stand out. You'll all have your own qualities outside your qualifications. Whatever they are, it's about trying to communicate and get them over to the people that are making recruitment decisions. Okay, a few do's and don'ts. Okay, I've got knocking around somewhere a some horror CVs, which I'll share with you in a bit. Fonts, different sizes, bold, underline, italics, you know, big. Try and modify it for each application, because it's quite easy to spot when you don't. Ensure dates are accurate. When you get to interview stage, if your dates don't add up, you're going to struggle to get any further. And of course, make sure the dates add up if you've got your LinkedIn profile and start getting checked out. Having a PDF version, that's a recommendation because if you submit a CV in Word, it will show up your formatting, it can show up potential grammar, the Americanisms. If you submit a CV in PDF, it's nice and clean, it's easy to read, so make sure you have one to hand, it's not hard to do. Spelling and grammar should be a given. Provide a referee only if you've got one. References available on request, it's another dull old phrase. If you want references, we will ask for them, believe me. Fill each side of A4, if it's going in paper, 1 page, 2 page, oh, there's a little bit there. Or don't let sections run over. It's basics, but you'd be amazed how much crap we get. Clear contact details, and on this as well, your email addresses that you chose when you was a teenager may not quite cut the mustard now. I can see a few smiles in them. You know what I'm talking about. You know, sleazy weezy 69 isn't going to look good. So I'm around about the fonts. Definitely don't include your picture. People go on first impressions. Lots of people say I'm not prejudiced against anything, but people do make first impressions, and you know, someone may just go, well, they look a bit odd, and that's it. It can influence it. Don't exclude jobs; they'll tend to get found out in the end. You might get away with it, but don't. Again, use colour. I had a gym a couple of days ago. I had my first green CV. The whole CV is in green, and it's in blue ink. And I said, wow, I've been interviewing for like 15 odd years. I've got green CVs, and she goes, well, I've always been told if you put it in a different colour in a stack of CVs, it'll stand out. I thought, yes, she got a point where it did look raw, because the paper was wishy-washy, it was a light green. So don't try to book the system too much, I think is what I'm trying to say. Yeah, and just don't make it easy for them to reject, because quite often it's all about how can we get 100 applicants down to 10, 20, how can we shortlist them. Okay, these were supposed to have the pictures on, but these are just a couple of examples of what they're just not very good. But I'll move on. Covering letters, keep the font the same. When I say traditional layout, 2 to 3 paragraphs. Why you're applying, why it appeals, nice, look forward to hearing from you. It's not hard, rarely done, will help. Get the recipient's name correct. I get Jackson, Jackman all the time. So straight away you think, look, you can't get the name right. Basics, common sense. So I don't feel like I'm writing too much or telling anyone off. Tell them why you want to apply. Don't think that they won't help. Don't duplicate content, and don't use the same letter for different roles. That does happen. We have people apply for roles with us that don't exist, because they've forgotten to remove the subject header. Are we with the time, Michael?
If I left my phone on, I'll tell you.
Okay. Your e-profile. More and more, and this is what clients are telling us, when they've got perhaps the short list, fire up Google, they'll fire your name in. And if they're smart, they'll also click on images, and that's where you need to be careful what's out there. Try it when you go home. And if you've been tagged in something on Facebook 3 or 4 years ago, you might be at the bottom of page 1, it could be that high. So yeah, people will draw inferences from them, good or bad. LinkedIn, I'm going to cover separately. Facebook, privacy settings. Probably 1 in 4, 1 in 5 people that apply to us to work for Thorn, their profiles are open, so you can see loads of stuff because you want to know what you're getting. So just be careful with your privacy settings. Twitter, it's more recent on the scene. I've been using Twitter for a couple of years. The trick here is that most companies that are out there will have their own Twitter feeds, and they tend to be either run by the marketing people that want to shout about all the good stuff that the company are doing, so that when you're in an interview, if you want to pick up on that, great, you can follow them, you can have a bit of banter with them, you can see what's going on. Or quite often to the smaller companies that with the senior staff that do the Twitter feed, and we're saying we've done this, we've got this, and there's lots of jobs on Twitter. The way Twitter works is that when Thorn advertise jobs, other things pick up on it and it gets retweeted and it gets passed around. So if you're not using Twitter from time to time, you may miss opportunities. But also in reverse, same sort of rules apply. Anything you put on Twitter, it's in the public domain. People like Joey Barton going off on one. It's all there for everyone to see. So anything you put out there, it could come back to haunt you if you're not careful. Okay, LinkedIn, I think it's really important now, it's going to be more so. Again, another show of hands, who's got a LinkedIn profile at the moment? Okay, so that's just over half the room, okay? That's good to know. Your personal profile. One tip I'd give you on this one is that if you look on your personal profile on contact details, you will see that LinkedIn provides you with your own URL. So it'll be linkedin.com/, and when you set up your profile, it would go, for me, Paul Jackman 2345 - and some letters. I would edit that as soon as you can to get it as close to your name as you can, because you're going to need it for the next 20-30 years. You can put it on your CV, it will help enhance your employability and make you look more serious. So grab a decent URL name while you can. Your picture, the best bit of advice I heard recently was that it should be what you look like. If you're going to visit a client and you're just going to open the door, what sort of, grin, smile, open face you're going to have, but each to their own. You then get to go through summary, work experience, education, honours and awards, etc. It needs to kind of mirror your CV, but LinkedIn, it can be changed for each potential job employee. It has to be one size fits all. So you can gain a fair bit with it, you can lose a lot if it looks a mess.